Milwaukee just launched a salvo at Festool with the introduction of its new Dust Extractor. This new Milwaukee extractor seems to have used the Festool CT series as a design template, and then gave it a steroid shot by adding some groundbreaking features. Now, I'm a proud owner of a Festool CT36 dust extractor, and have been for more than 5 years. But when I heard news about this new Milwaukee dust extractor more than a year ago, I immediately got on the wait list. I've been playing with it for a few weeks now, and I can say I'm very impressed. Still, there are a number of head scratchers with their design choices. I'm going to start off with the stuff that I'm most impressed with and give you a tour of this brand new vacuum. But stick around because this video is not all glam. Oh, and before we get too far into the details, let me explain my nomenclature. I will often call this and any other sucking machine a vacuum. Now, Milwaukee labels this thing as a dust extractor, as does Festool of their machines. And I've seen others differentiate the two by saying that a dust extractor is intended to connect only to dust-making tools, and that filtration is better on a dust extractor, and that shop vacs are for general purpose cleaning. Well, I certainly agree with that in general, but there are examples that blur the lines. Anyways, I tend to use the word vacuum and dust extractor interchangeably. So please don't be offended by my use of these terms. That said, let's dive into this new Milwaukee machine. It's a 9-gallon capacity, but as you can see, it's much more squatty than the Milwaukee's older 9-gallon vac. The overall shape is much closer to the Festool CT36 than the old Milwaukee vac lineup. On the sides of this new Milwaukee, they've added these hose hooks for winding and storing the hose. Thank you, Milwaukee, for finally coming up with a design that works and makes hose storage super easy to stow and remove. I hated that bungee cord thing on my old 9-gallon Milwaukee. Beyond the striking looks of this vacuum, I think the biggest feature addition is that not only is it cordless, it's also corded as well. The Milwaukee design team really brought the two worlds together. And whether you use batteries or AC power, it doesn't disappoint. There's plenty of power. There's no question that Milwaukee has focused on cordless tools over the last decade or so. They continue to crank out battery-operated tools that are powerful and convenient. This vac has a powerful DC motor that requires you to use two 18-volt batteries for a total of 36 volts. It won't run on just one battery, and if you try, it will beep at you asking for another. But if you're in the shop or have power available at the job site, you can use your own cord and plug it in and run the AC motor. That's right, this vac has both DC and an AC motor. The AC motor is even more powerful than the very capable DC motor. Of course, having dual motors adds significant weight to the extractor. 43.5 pounds by my scale, empty without batteries. Add another 7 to 10 pounds for batteries and a few pounds for whatever you sucked up that day, and you'll be reluctant to lift it into your truck. It's heavy. My test for power has always been to use this vacuum gauge. Now, I really have no idea how accurate it is, but for comparison purposes, it will always show you a relative winner. And as soon as I unboxed the Milwaukee, it was the first thing that I reached for. My Festool CT36 has long been the king of the shop, but it bows down to the new king, this Milwaukee. Even using batteries, the Milwaukee is more than 50% more powerful than a shop vac, and over 20% more powerful than the rigid NXT vacuum, and even a bit more powerful than the previous generation of Milwaukee dual battery vacuums. Switch to AC power, and you'll get another 20% boost. which is even more powerful than the Festool. Wow. When you have both batteries and AC power connected to the vacuum, it'll always use the AC motor and give you max power. Unfortunately, this setup will not charge the batteries. Wouldn't that have been a nice feature? The Milwaukee gives you the ability to turn down the power with these plus-minus buttons on the dash. There are 4 different power levels. I would have preferred a dial like the Festool, which gives you a lot more control. All that power makes some noise. It's significantly louder than my Festool CT36. Much like the vacuum gauge, I really don't know how accurate this sound meter is, but it does show you winners and losers. Testing the sound at 3 feet away, the CT36 at full power brings the meter up to 74 decibels. That same test on the Milwaukee extractor, and it averages 82 dB. It's not a quiet vacuum. But they are headed in the right direction with this new machine. My old 9-gallon Milwaukee is even louder at 85 dB. One other thing that I noticed when I was running my testing, if the vacuum hose becomes blocked by an obstruction, the tool will sound an alarm and a red light will illuminate on the dashboard, letting you know it needs attention and it's not working at full capacity. Outstanding power is just the beginning of this design. The whole package is very ergonomic. The top of the vac is pack-out compatible, so you can add your Jobsite boxes and the extractor becomes a very useful tool caddy. It rolls nicely with a set of swivel casters on the front and a big pair of wheels in the back. They've included all the right filtration features. There are 2 HEPA-rated pleated filters, and they are easily accessible in the trunk of the unit. They are also self-cleaning. Every time you fire up the machine, you'll hear a thud as the filters are tapped to remove stuck-on dust. There's also a button on the front of the machine that when turned on will tap the filter every 15 seconds. This keeps the filters clean if you're sucking up fine stuff like drywall or concrete dust, much like the auto-clean model of the Festool. They also include a fleece dust bag that easily installs in the tank cavity. Bags are always my preferred method of dust collection. They add life to the HEPA filters, and they are so much more convenient when the vacuum becomes full. Just pull the bag out, toss it, and insert a new one. Way better than dumping it and exposing yourself to all that dust that you were trying to get away from. One other nice feature that you'll appreciate when servicing that's similar to the Festool CT is that when you lift the motor, it's totally flat on the bottom and it sits flat on the floor. There aren't any like filters or plumbing that's hanging down into the tank, and that makes changing the bag so much easier. They also include a Bluetooth activator called Vac Link. It allows you to remotely turn the extractor on or off. It has a belt hook on the back, or you can mount it with this Velcro strap. This is very similar in function to the Festool Bluetooth module on the CT vacs. I like to keep it right on the cuff of the hose, so it's easy to start when you're using sanders or track saws. Milwaukee has already announced Vac Link enabled tools, such as their new random orbit sander, which will automatically power on the dust extractor when the tool is powered up. One other welcome feature they've added to this Milwaukee is their one-key tracking system. This is not a new product, but oh so useful to the contractor. In short, you can register the tool with the Milwaukee One Key app and it will track the tool's whereabouts. And if the tool is ever stolen, not only will it provide you with the location, but you can lock it from operating, making it a useless piece of plastic to the thief. Very powerful capability. As I mentioned before, as much as I love this new Milwaukee vac, there are a few head scratchers with it. They all relate to this hose design. At first glance, the red hose on it looks pretty much the same as the 1 7/8 inch hose on the old generation of Milwaukee vacuums, with just a change of color. They both have about the same stiffness and flexibility and crush resistance. But the Dust Extractor has a 36mm hose. And that's the same dimension as the Festool CT series medium hose. I have to remind myself that the lineage of this Milwaukee extractor is partly from the vacuum lineup, but it also shares features with the older Milwaukee 8-gallon Dust Extractor. The 8-gallon is a specialized tool targeted at silica dust extraction, such as concrete drilling and grinding. This 8-gallon unit also has a 36mm red hose. So perhaps this is where the decision was made to change to a metric hose. So what's the difference between the two hoses, you ask? Well, if you pull off the top caps and take a pair of calipers and measure the ID difference, the interior difference in between the two hoses, the 36mm Dust Extractor and the old 1 7/8 Milwaukee only has a difference of about 20 thousandths, which is less than a 1/16 of an inch. But that little bit of difference is enough to make the new hose, the 36mm hose, completely incompatible with all of the old Milwaukee vacuums and accessories. And that's a big bummer. I love the cuff design on the end of the hose that attaches to the extractor. It has 3 tabs on the cuff that line up with keyways in the vacuum, and 1/8 of a turn locks it into place. The bad news is the old Milwaukee hose had 2 tabs rather than 3. So no bueno using the old hose on the new extractor. The other end of the extractor hose has this clip-on cuff. It kind of looks like a rigid vac design. Something I've never seen on a Milwaukee. Help me out here if I'm missing something. This hose end will not work on any Milwaukee floor sweep nozzles, extension tubes, or really any Milwaukee adapters. The only thing it seems to fit is one of the 2 adapters that comes with the extractor. The first adapter snaps into the cuff and allows you to connect to European tools. Yup, my Festool sander and domino work great with this adapter. But it doesn't work with my DeWalt router, my Makita miter saw, any of my Milwaukee tools. Now they also give you this big funnel looking thing that's also an adapter that snaps into the hose cuff. And the wide end of the funnel is 2.5 inch. So I suspect that you can use Milwaukee's optional 2.5 inch vac tools. Now I don't own a hose of that size or any of the other tools, so I wasn't able to check for sure. But it's definitely bad news for all the 1 7/8 inch users like me. You know, it's almost like Milwaukee was more interested in compatibility with Festool owners than Milwaukee owners. I was really PO'd when I tried to use the new Dust Extractor with my Milwaukee Pack-Out Dust Separator. It mounts beautifully on top, but hooking it up to the metric extractor is pure frustration. So I pulled out my rather extensive collection of dust hoses and adapters and tried my hand at making the metric world talk to the old Milwaukee and shop vac imperial world. Everything in my collection turned out to be a big compromise. I suspect in time, Milwaukee will figure out all the needed accessories for this extractor. And much like Festool, they will have floor sweeps, brushes, and all sorts of cleaning attachments. But it's really a shame that they made all of your old Milwaukee accessories obsolete in one fell swoop. So back to my Pack-Out Dust Separator, I was bound and determined to get it to work with this new extractor. The Dust Separator is great. It works a lot like a Dust Deputy, if you're familiar with those. It captures all the big stuff in the airstream, like wood chips and dust, and only the finest stuff actually reaches the extractor. Well, I did come up with a method to make it work. I purchased a Festool 36mm end cuff, which threaded onto the Milwaukee hose just fine. And that end cuff fits nicely into the Dust Separator. Then I shortened the red extractor hose, Oh, it was so painful to cut that brand new hose. Now I can plug in my old 1 7/8 inch hose into the separator and use my old Milwaukee hose and floor sweep. I guess I'm using the dust separator on top as a very expensive hose adapter. I also figured out during my adapter trial and error that the new Milwaukee extractor cuffs fit the Festool and the Bosch hose. But like I said, the opposite is not possible. The Milwaukee extractor cuffs will not work on the 1 7/8 inch hoses. Anyway, for me, this was a very important find, because I have a 16-foot 36mm Bosch hose, and now I'm able to use it with the Milwaukee. 6 feet more length than the red hose that comes standard. Oh, and it stows just fine using the hose hooks on the side. Okay, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. Price. This new Milwaukee extractor, $799 US. And that's tool only. And that certainly brings it up into the Festool Dust Extractor range. It's more than double the cost of the old style 36-volt Milwaukee vacuum. Don't forget, if you want to run the new Milwaukee cordless, you'll need to have some higher end batteries. A pair of 8 amp hour Forge batteries, like what I have, will set you back another $400. From my testing, this pair will give you about 20 minutes of runtime on high. Just to refresh your memory on all this stuff that we've covered, here's a summary chart of sorts of all the vacuums that I mentioned in this test. Given the price of this extractor, it's really not in the same class as a traditional shop vacuum. It's better targeted at the contractor working with concrete and silica dust. But I would also say it's a viable Festool alternative for the carpenter. So will my CT36 be for sale? Probably not. Milwaukee needs to grow the number of accessories available first. For example, the Festool boom arm. It's become such an important part of my workflow and convenience. But you know, if I was still loading up the van each day and traveling to the job site, I would likely favor the Milwaukee. Bottom line, choices are a good thing. I do think this extractor really raises the bar. As you can see, I'm turning red. A big shout out to my friends over at Anders Hardware. You know, during the course of my evaluation, I reached out to Milwaukee for comment, and I was able to connect with the product manager responsible for this new dust extractor. And they let me know they already have a cleaning kit in the release pipeline. And the key component in that kit is a 36mm hose adapter, which will allow you to use the extractor hose with all of the 1 7/8 inch accessories, as well as the Milwaukee air tip vac tools. That kit is slated for release in early 2026. Oh, and by the way, I am not sponsored by Milwaukee, and I paid for this extractor with my own money. All of the opinions presented here are my own, and as they say, your mileage may vary. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Or if I missed something that you're curious about, drop me a comment below, and I'll try to get back to you. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. And I would love to have you join the club and subscribe. Thanks for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.